So iguanas are large lizards, and we actually had the chance to look after these creatures. And on one occasion, I ended up getting bitten by one. Right, it swung around and grabbed hold of me by the hand. And as it did this, well, the teeth were extremely sharp. They were extremely, serrated, backward-pointing teeth, sunk into all of my flesh. And as I prized the mouth open and pulled it out, what I noticed over a few days was that actually it began to puff up. It began to go a bit purpley. And recently, and I'm only talking about in the last few years, 3 to 4 years, we've discovered that green iguanas actually have venom in them. They have a mild form of rattlesnake venom. So when you get bitten by them, the venom reacts and you end up getting toxins running through your system. One Deadly Bite is what I've called the presentation. It's a presentation we've done many times, and it deals with this topic of venom. Right, there's a snake for our American viewers. It's the Western diamondback rattlesnake. It's a pretty nasty creature. It shakes its tail. It's got some pretty deadly venom in its fangs there. Stuff that you really don't want to get bitten by. Of course, the question is, why would a good God make such a bad thing? Now, there are lots of questions to be asked. You can ask the question, why would God create venom? You can ask the question, is venom the result of the fall? You can ask the question, could venom have had a different use than what it's currently used for? Could the venom have got worse after the curse, so it couldn't kill before, but it got worse afterwards? In which case, is it something? Did it have a different use before the curse? And you can also ask the question, are there any vegetarian animals that are also venomous? Because if you were to find some vegetarian animals that are venomous, it would indicate that there is a different purpose to venom rather than just killing things. Now, we need to run through this because if you go onto some of the major creationist websites and you type in venom or why would a good god make bad things or when did attack or defense structures come about, you get some different ideas, some interesting ideas, sometimes some rather silly ideas. But here are some ideas, creationist ideas, Christian ideas about the origin of venom. One idea is that God actually equipped snakes with venom to survive in a fallen world. In other words, God knew that the world would need to be cursed, that Adam and Eve would sin, and so God equipped snakes. And before he either controlled them or because man had dominion, they didn't bite and didn't inject venom or anything like that. But God equipped snakes with the purposes of being able to survive in a fallen world. Another idea is that venom was not actually created until after the fall, because venom is a bad thing. It kills, so it wouldn't have actually come into being until after the fall. One idea is that venom just arose naturally after the fall, that it is just a case of mutations or so on and so forth, and it arose by itself after the curse had come on. And the other idea is that God actually designed snakes to kill, but he physically limited their killing ability before the world was cursed. Now, every single one of these ideas, I will stand up today and say they are wrong. And the reason that they are wrong is because they are all based on the same assumption that people like David Attenborough and Richard Dawkins base their assumptions on. And you can find some of these ideas, by the way, in major Christian and creationist organizations today. What's the problem? Here it is here. Sir David Attenborough, Life in Cold Blood. Great program, by the way. Stunning visuals and film work. And, well, have a look at what he said here. Snakes are the ultimate killing machines. You do realize that every single one of these ideas is based on the assumption that venom is designed to kill. Every single one of these assumptions or ideas is based on the assumption that snakes are designed to be killers, that snakes are equipped with something in order to kill. You're actually taking the same standpoint that people like David Attenborough and Richard Dawkins and the atheists take if you try and promote these ideas. What you need to do is make sure you're starting from scripture, starting from that basis that everything that God created was very good, and actually move forward from there and apply scripture to the real world and not the other way around. This is what evolution says. This is what Richard Dawkins and David Attenborough and the atheists believe. They believe that in the beginning there was the Big Bang, and all by itself, hydrogen turned into compounds. They turned into molecules, they turned into microbes, monsters like the dinosaurs, man, and onwards and upwards. In other words, it all happened by itself. There was no need for a special creation. In fact, if this is true, then a special creation is unthinkable. Of course, what's the solution? We start from Scripture. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. And as John mentioned earlier, we tend to view good as a moral word today, but it is so much more than that. In the beginning, God created everything perfect. And then Adam and Eve sinned. Eve was deceived. She was tricked by the serpent into eating the tree from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam willfully chose to disobey, and as a result, the world was cursed. The world had changed from good to bad. Death entered the world, and everything began to go downhill, including us, including thorns. You do realize that all thorns are the result of a genetic mutation or a problem, a mistake in the plant, which either causes the leaves to shrink, which is in this case, and the tubes, which normally are designed for taking water to the leaves and sugar back down, end up sticking out and are prickly, or you end up with thorns that are a mutation, which produces a spiky thing sticking out the side, or a mutation, which means that the branches can't continue to develop into leaves, and so they leave a sharp stick out the side. Thorns, by absolute certainty, are the result of the fall. We know that just from Scripture as well as from the science. Scripture says they didn't come onto the earth after the fall, and we can see that thorns are the results of mistakes. Thorns and prickles are the result of problems. Thorns and thistles are the result of a very bad world. Nasty, spiky things. Including these examples that we actually got from the UK. And we even found some newer thorns just the other day in Castleton around the Peak District, some rather fabulous thorns. And it makes a very important point. If these thorns are, in the fossils, which they are, they're buried in the rocks, then these rocks are not 380 million years old, as the secular scientists like to say, but they're actually less than 10,000 years old. Because according to the Bible and according to what we observe about thorns, they are the result of a mutation, they are the result of the fall. Therefore, they didn't come onto the earth until after Adam sinned. Therefore, they were not on this planet until after man was on this planet, and these rocks have to be very young indeed. Wonderful fossils from all over the world. Okay, let's talk once again about this creature here. This is a green iguana, the one I was talking about earlier. Oh, actually, this one was the friendly one. We had a nasty one called Hannibal. I didn't name him, by the way, and he was the one who bit me. The one that I told you we've recently discovered, and I mean in the last 3 to 4 years, the green iguanas like these, not only do they have serrated, backward-pointing, extremely sharp teeth which sink through flesh and tendons, they are also venomous. They have venom glands, they are able to inject venom, and it's enough venom to actually kill a small mammal like a guinea pig or a mouse or something like that, right? It's not just green iguanas, by the way. Here's Methuselah, our bearded dragon, and he too has sharp, serrated, backward-pointing teeth that are also venomous, enough to kill a small mammal. Okay. Question, what do these creatures eat? The answer is quite simple. Whoops, just hopefully try and get it to play this time. Here we go. There it is, just there. You can see we've put some grub out for them. There's Boise is there on the left. Hannibal, the one who bit me, is there on the right. And they're munching into meat? No, they're veggies. They love veggies. In fact, meat is actually quite dangerous for them. They are 100% vegetarian. In fact, let me show you this other video here, if I can get it to play, because have a look at Hannibal, our green iguana here, as he is munching on this tough cabbage leaf. Can you notice a characteristic which is also present in modern day meat eaters? Watch carefully. There he is, biting hold of it. And there he is, swinging his head side to side to rip off a chunk of the tough cabbage leaf. Now, John, are you there?
I'm still here.
Okay, now in Australia, a little bit further north from where you are, you have some rather large reptiles as well that like to swim and go snap. Is that true?
We certainly do. They're called crocodilians, and we have
Crocodilian?
these bearded dragons where we are as well.
Uh-huh.
And we've observed this behaviour down under in Australia of now discovered venomous creatures that are 100% vegetarian.
Yeah, but can you see the way that Hannibal here was shaking his head from side to side in order to rip off a great big tough chunk of cabbage? Do you see that happening with crocodiles with meat?
We certainly do. If they tackle a live animal, they prefer, even though it's sort of folk talesy, that it drowns it. And then when it's a bit softer, it rips it up because its teeth actually can't rip huge chunks out of a fighting animal. Its teeth are not bedded like yours are. The teeth will rip out, they'll break. One of my friends who keeps crocodiles had a crocodile bite his hand and the tooth stuck in his hand. It broke off. They're not fighting teeth. They're not killing teeth. They need to shake the thing, even to get a saw-like effect, like you saw with the lizard there biting off the big chunks of tough
Exactly.
cabbage leaf.
It actually makes it a lot more effective. Now, this makes 2 points. First of all, obviously, green iguanas extremely sharp teeth, just like many animals today. Like the T-Rex had extremely sharp backward-pointing serrated teeth, but just like the iguanas, it was a plant eater. It eats plants, and so it's using its sharp serrated teeth, which can easily cut through flesh, by the way, and I'm testimony to that. They use it to eat plants. So sharp teeth or teeth in general only tell you how an animal eats, not what an animal eats. Also, what we're seeing here is characteristic carnivore behavior. The shaking of the head from side to side to rip off chunks of food, right? It's evident, just like venom is evident in herbivores and in carnivores, it's also evident with the way that you consume stuff. In other words, the
So,
behavior tells you how you eat it, not what you're actually eating. Did you want to comment, John?
can I comment here on baby crocodilians? Crocodiles don't do too well where I live, which most people are grateful for, because the winter time is too cold. Even though it's sort of subtropical, you sort of have to breed them if you want to run a successful crocodile farm from Bundaberg and north, where it's much warmer for the whole of the year. Their stomach dissolves things in once it's digested. The big chunks that come from ripping off, whether it's cabbage or meat, will go rotten in the stomach unless it can have a warm blooded or a warm effect of the enzymes. But there's one other thing that most people don't get. It's not in the textbooks. It's not on David Attenborough. When the crocodiles are born, you may remember they're born out of eggs which are laid on the riverbank, there's 2 interesting things. One is the temperature depends. The temperature of the hatching governs whether you're a boy or a girl, which is grateful that it didn't happen to me that way or you that way. But when they first start swimming, they go and they eat plant material. So they're vegetarian when they're young. And then they'll swim up the river to where there's a rocky patch and they'll start swallowing rocks because they don't chew their food, either vegetable or animal. And when you find the adult crocodile, it's inevitably got stones in its stomach because it didn't chew its food. And if it doesn't grind up the food with those stones, and some of you may realize that dinosaurs had the same feature, right? Many of them have stomach stones because they couldn't chew up their food either. And there is no evidence against the proposition that dinosaurs like the big teeth lizards and the crocodiles started out as vegetarian.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, let's move back to venom now though, and let's talk a little bit about venom and the background to venom. What did snakes eat in a very good world, including the venomous ones? Well, the answer is simple. I mean, what do their snakes actually have? They have sharp teeth, they have venom, and they have heat sensors. Now, according to secular science, each one of these are specifically designed in order to kill. Sharp teeth for stabbing, venom for killing, and heat sensors, which are actually designed to, well, they claim that they're designed to hunt. They seek out living creatures, right? They seek out mammals in order to be able to go and hunt and catch them. What good are these for in a good world? Well, venom and poison. Here's some a pit viper. He has some wonderful heat sensing pits, and you find these in the big pythons, like John's friend at the bottom of the garden. We worked with boa constrictors and Burmese pythons and the lot, right? They all have these heat sensing pits. Now, according to secular science, these are supposed to be for finding mammals, although they've recently changed their minds. Science now says knowing when to slither underground to beat the heat is a key survival for a cold-blooded creature, and the researchers say that thermoregulation, not hunting, may be why the pits evolved. In other words, the pits are extremely important for understanding when it's time to go and get into the sun, where the best place to be in the sun is, and where the best place to get out of the sun is, right? Where's the coolest spot? There's an alternative mechanism for these heat sensing pits. Now, does that mean that snakes don't use the heat sensing pits for hunting today? Of course they do. It is a very good design, originally created for a good purpose, which is now being used in the wrong way. Teeth and venom. Well, John already mentioned about the crocodiles, right? They can't chew. And so the crocodiles, which aren't venomous, by the way, have to swallow stones in order to help grind them up. Snakes have got a problem because they don't really swallow stones. They're long and thin, right? It wouldn't really work. But you see, teeth will grip and pierce food. We've already talked about that. Teeth will also inject venom into the food. Now, what is venom? Well, this is how you know that venom couldn't have just arisen by itself, nor do I believe that it was created after the fall, because venom is a mixture, an extremely complicated and complex cocktail of proteins and enzymes that break down food. Now, what are enzymes? I mean, you think back to your sort of high school biology textbook days, enzymes are essentially catalysts. They speed up a process, right? And process is the key here, by the way. Your spit has got enzymes in it because it starts the breakdown of the food as you chomp and chew it round, right? And you swallow it down, and there you go. Snakes can't chew. Snakes have to swallow things whole in one go. Venom? Okay, what actually does venom do? That's probably a good place to start. What does venom do? It digests. That is its actual purpose. It is designed to digest. Why does venom kill you? Because it started to digest you. There are two major toxins in venom. There is a hemotoxin and there is a neurotoxin. Neurotoxins attack your nervous system, right, by digesting the nerves, and so you can't feel anything and you just stop like that. That's the one that'll kill you quick. Hemotoxin attacks your blood. It begins to digest your blood, which causes it to coagulate. It can no longer flow through your veins, and as a result, you will die a longer, slower death, but you will be very, very dead by the end of it, right? Unlike some neurotoxins, in which case you can still be alive but paralyzed, and it just takes a little bit longer to actually kick in, right? But in both cases, venom, the toxins, are digesting you. And it turns out that many of these toxins and venoms, if not all of them, are just as good at digesting plants, just as good as digesting vegetation, as they are to digest you. It just so happens that the snake is using his very good design, which is designed to help him consume food, in a very bad way. Why do it this way? We've already mentioned that snakes don't chew, nor do they dislocate their jaws, by the way. That's a common one. They actually have a very specially designed skeletal system, which means that due to their quadruped bone, which you can see on the back there, they can actually expand their jaws, unfold them right far out, and they have got stretchy skin underneath their chin, and their two jaw bones aren't actually joined together, so they can stretch them out very, very wide and swallow a very, very large creature indeed. Venom is a very good design, created by God for a very good purpose in order to digest. Now it is being used in a bad way. You need to actually put on God's glasses and take Darwin's glasses off. Add into the equation the real history of weather. In the beginning, everything was very good. Adam and Eve were walking around naked and they weren't freezing to death, and neither were they getting sunburned. Skip forward to Noah's day, you have the first reference to rain in the Bible, and afterwards God gives a promise that for as long as the earth shall remain, there'll be cold and heat. There'll be summer, there'll be winter, there'll be seed time, and there'll be harvest. Skip forward to the time of Job, and you find that the first ever reference to ice and hail and snow is recorded in scripture. By Abraham's time, you have a drought and you have to go to Egypt. By Joseph's time, you also have a drought and they have to go to Egypt. And all of a sudden, you have hard to live areas. Now, if you're a snake living in the Australian outback where the only plants are large trees or tough grasses, could you be able to survive purely on plants? Of course you couldn't, because plants like grass, tough grass, requires, in order to be able to consume, a special collection of stomachs in order to digest and redigest and digest once more in order to get all the nutrients out. Snakes don't have that. So snakes are faced with the option of either dying out and going extinct, which is evident that happened to many, many different kinds of animals, or using their very good design in a very bad way in order to survive. That's why you find, by the way, the highest concentration of venomous creatures, or extremely venomous creatures anyway, are found in the very hard to live areas. Australia is unique because it has more venomous snakes than non-venomous snakes. But then that's not really surprising when you consider how much of it is pretty much inhospitable. If you didn't have this amount of toxin in your venom, then you would have died off completely, leaving only the extremely venomous ones. No, snakes didn't evolve there. It just so happens that the venomous ones that are there now are the only ones that have been able to survive. Everything else has died off. Make sure you get a biblical perspective. And as the world degrades and there's not much veg, snakes actually have to use these good designs to defend themselves as well. I hope you realize that snakes can actually choose when to inject venom. At least 25 to 50% of known snake bites are dry bites. And do you want to know an interesting statistic? The vast majority of these dry bites are to women and children. It seems that snakes and reptiles can certainly tell the difference between male and female, and they can tell the difference between young and old, and most of the time they will choose to put a dry bite into a young child or into a female as opposed to a male human being, that is. Interesting little thought there about dominion and the promise that God gave to the snakes as well. Of course, if you're wearing Darwin's glasses, and we'll finish on this point, you will define evolution as change. You'll call all change evolution. Next, you'll accept change in snake diet and behavior as proof of evolution. Therefore, you will dismiss creation as completely unthinkable. The final point: there are many theories that disagree with everything in the Bible, but the facts never do. One deadly bite? No, this is one good design gone wrong. In the beginning, snakes were very good, and they were created with venom, or somewhere at least were created with venom, which was very good. It's now being used wrong way, and there's your reason why. There's the real deadly bite. It's when man chose to willfully sin, and as scripture says, through one man's sin entered the world, death entered through sin, and death came corruption of the human race, and the actual need for a global flood in the first place, the judgment of God on the planet, the judgment of God on the humankind at the Tower of Babel, and the rest, as they say, is history. This is why the present is not the key to the past. If you want to get the answer as to why the snakes have venom and how could God create them in a very good world, you need to go back to the past to actually find out what went wrong.